Right. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully you can all hear me. Welcome to today's webinar, which is going to be covering the animation functionality in BricsCAD. So, as you can see on my screen, we've got a model there open at the moment, which is the axe and drive mechanism for a robot that was built for Robot Wars UK TV series, and where robots beat each other up, basically. And what we're going to do is be looking at the animation side of things. So you might want to animate a constraint or have a fly through of a building or a mechanical object or a warehouse, whatever it may be. And I'm going to show you how to do that and also how to do our exploded views. Oops, looks like I've got a message come through. Bear with me a second. Oh, all good. So hopefully, yeah, you can all hear me now. And so we'll go through the animation side of BricsCAD. So what we've got is the model on the screen. We've got the axe mechanism, drive mechanism, as I said, from the Robot Wars Robot UK series. And what we're going to do is go to the animation side of things. Now, to activate the animation toolbar, we can go to our view commands at the top and use the animation editor button. You can also type in animation in your timeline or your text line at the moment. So if you put in animation, you'll see it says animation close and animation animator open. So either way, you can use that. I'm just going to use the icon at the top there, and that's going to be my animation toolbar. Just to explain what you're seeing on the screen, you've got your timeline along here. At the moment, we've got a 5-second video that we're going to create. So we can change that in the parameters at the side here. So we can make that 5, 10, 20 minutes, whatever you want to put in there. I'll leave it at 5 seconds for now. On the other side, we've got what we can create. So we can create multiple scenes. So you can set up a scene, have certain things happening, something's moving, camera movement, and then have a secondary screen scene that you can set up for different camera views or different angles. So you can have as many scenes as you want, and you can also delete those scenes if you want to as well. The window below is showing us what we can add to the animation. So at the moment, if I click on that, we can see all of our parameters and constraints that have been added to the assembly. As you can see, I'm not very good at naming my constraints. I've just gone with the defaults, but obviously you give it a meaningful name. The one that I'm going to be interested in is the one I've renamed as axe drive. So we're actually going to animate the axe moving on this mechanical assembly. So just to explain also, the other thing we've got up there is a camera. Now that's quite important. It's going to be the view that you're going to see in your animation. If you don't add a camera and we just hit the render button with nothing happening, you will just see this view as a static view. If you add a camera, oops, don't want that. We're just going to go and add our camera. Again, if we hit the animate button, you'll see nothing really happens because we haven't actually told the camera to do anything. So we're going to add the camera to our timeline, and then we can add an effect. So again, if we do nothing, just add the camera, hit the play button, or we could render it, and you would get that view as a static view on your screen. If you want to add an event, you simply, or an effect, you click on the plus button, and by default, it gives you a 1 second little block there. Now this doesn't matter. What it's going to do is activate the view that we had at that point. So we don't have to stretch it across. It doesn't make any difference. You just have it in a single spot. What we can then do is say, okay, in 2 seconds, I want to go to the other isometric view. So we set our view up, hit the plus, and now if we go back to the beginning, we'll see we've got our first view, hit the play button on the timeline, and when it gets to 2 seconds, it will go to the second view that we set up. And you can set up as many views as you want throughout the timeline. You can also change when the effect happens. So we might want it only half a second after we start playing, and you'll see as soon as it hits the activation point there, it will change the view automatically. Now, one thing to be aware of is when you're setting the camera views like we're setting now, it's going to do its best to honor the views that are preset. So you've got the top left, top right, bottom left, bottom right, front, back, left, and right. So if I set my view somewhere about there, slightly off of the isometric standard views, and I activate or create another effect, when we come back and play that, you see the view isn't exactly the same as we left it. So it's trying its best to get to the isometric views or the square on views that we've got preset. So you need to be aware that if you've got a particularly strange angle you want to put in there, and we might want to just delete this one, add another one in. When you actually go to that, it's going to try and move that view slightly so it's onto the axes or the views that it's used to. So that's something to be aware of when you're planning your views. It may not matter if you're using all isometric views or square on views, then it'll be absolutely fine. If you want to have a custom camera angle, I'm just going to delete these now. You've got several ways you can actually do this. First thing is you can place a point in the drawing and use that to anchor the camera position, and then you can set the camera view. To show you how we do that, I'm just going to come up the top here to my 2D drafting area. And the first thing I'm going to do is put in a point. Select the point. Now, an important thing here is if we don't change some settings I'm about to show you, the point will replace, but it'll be very, very hard to actually see because obviously it's a single point. To make life easy, we're going to go to our point settings, and then we can come to point display mode and just expand that. And we've got a choice of whether we show a circle or a square, and also we want to place inside that an X, just so we can make sure we can find it. And you can see we get a preview in the bottom corner here. I'm going to change the size of that. I might want that to be slightly larger, so I'm going to change that to 60. Close the dialog box, and I'm just going to place my point. As you can see now, very, very easy to see. We might want to manipulate this now. So I'm just going to activate that. Go to our quad. And then we're just going to drag that work point to the position that we want that to be. A bit better. We want to be looking down on the view, so we're just going to move our work point up. Like so. Once we've done that, we can now place our camera or camera effect in here. And on the right hand side, we've now got the properties box, and we can change our camera position and target. So at the moment, we're going to say our camera position is fixed. And the point I want to fix it to, you go to the plus icon there, and it says select new path. And then we're going to simply select on the work point that we just created and click OK. Late joining, we'll just join that there. So that gives our position for the camera. If we want to focus on a certain area, again, we can fix the target. And we're going to select a part of the robot. And it's going to give us a point name there. And again, you can change that if you wish. So now, when we hit the play button, we're going to go back to my original view. And we've got the point view that we've selected in the position we've selected. Now you can have multiple points on here, so you might want to change that area. So what I'm going to do is place another point, and I'll just randomly put it over here. We'll go to 2 seconds. Zoom around a little bit. And now I'm going to change my point to the second point that I placed. Place that in. Just snapped on there. So now we're going to have 2 camera views. The first one is set, and then the second one, you see it jumps into position there. So you can control how the camera or where the camera is set up and where it's going to be focused to. Just get back to that. So that's all good. Just delete some of these. I'm just going to go for our standard view for what I want to show you now. So I'm just going to go to a standard isometric view. And we're just going to add that as our camera view, the 5-second duration. Next thing we want to do is actually animate some of the constraints that are on the robot. So in our browser here, we've got all of the parameters that we've selected. And again, the one I'm interested in now is the one I renamed to be Axe Drive. So if we select this and add it to our timeline, and then we can add the event or the effect on there, like so. Now again, we can change the length of this. Now, when we're driving a constraint, this becomes quite important. So we might want this axe to move in 2 seconds, or take 2 seconds to go from point A to point B. Or we can say we want it to be 5 seconds, so it's right the way through an animation. I'm going to set that to 2 seconds. And then we can come down to the properties. So this is the parameter properties. And the start value is 47 millimeters. And the parameter we're looking at is basically the distance from the back of this component to the front face of this component. So it gives us an effect that we can push the RAM out. So I'm now going to change that so it finishes at 200 millimeters. And then when we press the play button, it's now going to activate that parameter, and you'll see the axe start to slightly move. Now, this is going to be quite slow frame by frame because it's calculating all of the other parameters that are affected by this parameter moving or increasing in value. So it's actually driving the axe, honoring the center point where it's rotating around, and also the link arms. You can see that just moving a little bit. So rather than wait that to go all the way through, I've got some animations that I've already set up. And the first one I've got here is done in low resolution, just so you can see what's happening. I'm just going to stop that. So that view. A second. So there, hopefully everyone can see that. We've got the video screen there. And if hit play, you'll see the animation is quite smooth as the axe arm moves forward. Now I've done this in draft mode, just so you can see how it works. It's a lot faster to render in draft mode to the high res mode, as you'll see later on. So that's controlling that parameter. So we've got movement on our component. So the next thing you might want to do is have a bit better camera angles. I've shown you how to do a work point, which gives you a static view, and it doesn't fade from one view to another view. So we want something that's a little bit smoother. So what we can do now, let's get rid of the axe movement, so move a little bit quicker, and we'll also delete this as well. So what we can also do is use other geometry to create a path for our camera. So the first one I want to do is I'm just going to go for front view here, or top view. And I'm just going to draw a line that goes from left to right. Now, it's important here to remember which way we drew the line, because when you draw the line and use it for a path, it's going to use the start point of the line for the start point of the camera. So if you want the camera to go from left to right, you've drawn the line from left to right. If you want it to go the other way, you can simply move the line or drag the start point in the other direction. So you got from right to left, or you can flip the X and Y of the line when you create it. I'm going to leave it on the default just so you can see how it works. And I'm going to just move this line up a little bit. And we'll also come out a little bit. That's the path we want the camera to travel along. So same as before, I'm going to add an effect. And I'm going to go down into the properties. And this time I'm going to change it from being fixed to dynamic. The path at the moment is undefined. So again, I can expand this, click on the select new path, and then select our line and click OK. Now we want to give it a target. So it's looking at a certain point while it's moving. We're going to go for a fixed target. Again, you could have a dynamic target if you wish. So you could have a second line on here, moving the camera focus point from right to left or left to right or top to bottom, whatever you want it to do. I'm going to go for the fixed, and I'm going to select the spot that I want, and I want it to focus on that part of the robot and click OK. So now when we click the play button, I'm just going to extend this out so it moves a little bit slower. We'll see we've now got motion traveling from left to right, focused on the center point of the robot. So it's very, very easy to work with. You can move that, update it, change the position, rotation, whatever you want to do. So just to demonstrate that, we're going to come to our manipulator again. And what I'll do is just rotate that around, and we'll say 45 degrees, somewhere like that. Again, I'm just going to go from scratch so you can see how it works again. I'm going to place our effect in here. We're going to take 5 seconds for it to work, and then we're going to animate it along this line now. And also fix it to the bottom point of the robot, we'll say this time. So now when we hit the play button, we'll see we're going from bottom left to top right. So you can get some very, very nice views of that sort of thing. Other ways of manipulating your camera, if I just get rid of this and we'll delete that. You might want to put a circle in so you can do an orbit around the robot. So we're just going to go for our top view. Click a point here, drag out a circle, and again you can change the size, dimension, position, whatever you want to do just by using the manipulator. And we're just going to drag it up like so. Same as before, we can add our camera, give it 4 seconds to do the rotation, and tell it that it's going to be dynamic and it's going to be focused around this circle. Again, we can set our target position. This time we'll set it at the top of the axe, click OK, and then when we hit the play button, it's now going to do an orbit. Perhaps the camera target point wasn't very good, so anytime I can come in here and I'll say, well, actually, that's not very good. I'm going to come down and I'm going to fix it onto the front and bottom of the robot there. And again, when we hit play, that's now going to update for us. You can see how it works. So once you've got your camera angle and you've got your constraints being driven, you might want to then obviously render this out to an AVI or an MP4 file. So what we can do is go to our render video. Now, something to be aware of, I'm not sure whether this is designed, but the dialog box that comes up, you'll see you've got the frame rates, the size of the video, the file format, so you can set that to MPEG, and you can change the render quality from draft to full quality, and start time, end time, and frame. The one thing you'll find at first that you won't be able to get to the bottom parts here. Now, this dialog box is expandable, and if you hover over this corner, even though there's no grip bars there that you normally see on an expandable dialog box, you can simply click and hold and drag that out and you get the rest of the dialog box. So you can choose where you want to save this, or you can just go straight to the render button. Now again, it's going to take a little bit of time to render that, so I've already prepared one. And when I say quite a bit of time, we're only talking about 2 or 3 minutes, but obviously we've only got 30 minutes for this presentation. So I'm going to show you one I prepared earlier, and I'm going to pull this across, and we'll make that a little bit bigger. So the smooth animation you get when you click on play, you can see it rotates around quite happily. Now, you can see that this view is now being exploded. And at the moment, all we've done is work with parameters as they come through from the model. Now, I'm going to get onto the exploded view a little bit later, but there's a few things to be aware of. When we're working with this model I've got at the moment, you'll see everything is at top level. So there's no sub-assemblies and there's no blocks. They're all single parts and constrained by the 3D parametric constraints in this assembly. If you're working with a large assembly, you're going to have blocks and sub-assemblies in there. Now, this is quite important. If I go to my other assembly here, now it's a very, very simple, it's only 2 components in the assembly, but this is an assembly where a block has been placed. So we've got a component, and we've got component 1, component 2, and we've got the parameters. Because this is now a block that's been imported, if I come down to where I was accessing the parameters on our previous model that was at top level, single level, click on the down button and all we got is sun. And if we delete the camera, we have camera as well that we can add. There's no parameters in this drop-down box. This is because the parameters are in the block or the mechanical sub-assembly that you've placed into this new assembly. And quite often I get people asking me, well, I can't animate or change any of my constraints in this assembly. Very, very simple workflow to be aware of is the parameters of the subassembly or block are displayed under your parameters dialog box, but they're one level down. If we want to access these, we simply select the parameters we want to access, right click and select link to parameter. That will now give you three more parameters at top level with the same name as you had in the original parameters, but now they are accessible to the animation time bar. So we're just going to add all three of these in, and we'll make this a 5-second animation, and we'll have 1, 2, and 3. We'll say we want them to start at different points and the length of the transition, and then we're going to change the start value and the end value. So the end value will have as 50 on this one, 80 on this one, and 100 on this one. So now when we click the play button, you'll see that we're going to animate those constraints. So you can see the full animation. So all three constraints are working in your animation. So again, important thing to remember there is if you've got a block or a subassembly going into an assembly, you need to expose those parameters back to top level. So back to our model here, and the one thing I get asked also is I've created a exploded assembly and I want to animate it, and you have the camera angles, etc. In my video that I want to produce. Now, at the bottom here, I've got my representations and I've got an exploded view that I've already created. But if we come to our drop down, we'll see that that exploded view is not available in my parameters that I can adjust. So I need to bring that animation into the mechanical window. Now, this is very easy to do, but there is a couple of things that you need to be aware of. When we insert our exploded view into this view, it's going to give you a completely new model. So you're going to have two of everything on your screen. So easy way to work with a good workflow for this is I've created a new layer called explode, which at the moment is turned off. So I'm going to turn that on, and everything else at the moment is on my layer 0, but all the other layers, they need to be switched off if they're in there. Now, the first thing people tend to do is you'll select the components that you don't want, and they'll just use the hide command. That's good. It hides it on the screen, but when you do the render in the animation, it doesn't look at the hide situation. It'll render all of the components. So you'll end up with two complete models in your video. So what I'm going to do now is activate my exploded layer, and I'm going to turn off layer 0, which has all of my components on. To bring the exploded animation into the assembly, all I have to do is type insert, and it's going to come up with all the parameters that are available, and I can scroll down and find my manual top, which is the name of my exploded view. Click insert, and then when I go to my drop down for what's available, parameters, I've now got manual top available, which is my exploded view. So I can say I want to use my exploded view, I want to add that to my timeline, and then when we press the play button, it'll start to explode the robot as per the exploded view that's been created. Now you'll see it is jumping around a little bit. Those are the camera views that I saved in the animation or the exploded animation when I created that. We want it to ignore that. So what we can do, again, we can come into our drawing area, and if we wanted to, we could create a polyline. I'm just going to come up here. And I want my polyline to start here. We'll probably come across to here. And if we wanted to, we could draw an arc, which takes it round to here. If we want to change the height, again, very easy. We can just come to our manipulator. We'll drag it up a little bit. And that's the view that we want. So now when I place this, we're going to go for the full 10 seconds on here. And again, we're going to tell it that it's going to be dynamic. And we're going to use this polyline for a path. And the target is going to be fixed. And we're going to set that to the front of the robot. So now, when we hit play, it's going to follow the polyline whilst it's using the exploded view to fully explode our robot. And again, you can have as many angles as you want, whatever your artistic preferences are, you can change that and update it. Another thing you can use is 3D polylines. So I'm going to just delete this line here just so you can see it's a little bit easier. So this goes in X, Y, and Z axes. And again, we can use this as a dynamic path. I'm just going to select that path like so. And now when we press the play button, we can see we've got multiple views, multiple angles, moving the camera around wherever we want to place that. So you can see, very easy to work with. Another video, or the last video I'm going to show you now, is the final version of this. This was rendered at better resolution, but still not the full resolution that you've used. But you can see how smooth the action is and how easy that is to work with. So we've got through quite a lot there quite quickly. If anyone has any questions at all, feel free to drop us an email or use anything on social media. I'm more than happy to help out with any problems you've got. That concludes our quick presentation. Thank you very much.